The wedding that turned into a funeral. My name is Elara Whitmore. And the day I got married, my parents dressed for my burial. Black silk, black lace, black gloves, as if I had died. Not as if I was beginning a new life. The church smelled like lilies, white everywhere. Soft piano music floating through stained glass light. Guests whispering. My bridesmaids fixing my veil. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. I remember looking at myself in the mirror. White gown. Nervous smile. Hands shaking slightly. I thought it was normal. Brides get nervous. Right. I didn't know the real storm hadn't even started yet. 5 minutes, whispered Ava, my maid of honor. 5 minutes. 5 minutes until I walked down the aisle. 5 minutes until forever. Or so I believed. Then the doors opened, and the whispering began. Not soft, not subtle, sharp, confused, uncomfortable. I turned, and I saw them, my parents, Marcus and Helena Whitmore, walking slowly, deliberately, dressed entirely in black. My mother's veil was black, not decorative, not fashionable, funeral black. My father's tie was black. His expression, cold, controlled, almost satisfied, as if he had prepared for this moment. At first, I thought maybe someone had died. Maybe there had been an accident. Maybe something terrible happened. But no, they walked straight to the front row, sat down, folded their hands, and stared at me, not with pride, not with tears, with disappointment. Ava leaned closer to me. Is this a joke? I couldn't answer, because suddenly I understood. They weren't mourning a death. They were mourning me. To them, I had died the moment I refused to sign that paper. The house. The lake house. Grandmother's lake house. The only thing she left me. Not my sister. Me. Because I was the one who stayed with her during chemo. I was the one who cleaned the kitchen when she couldn't stand. I was the one who held her hand at 2 a.m. when she whispered, "Don't let them take it from you." I promised her. I promised. But my sister, Vanessa Whitmore, didn't see it that way. Vanessa saw opportunity. Vanessa saw profit. Vanessa saw expansion for her fashion boutique. And my parents. They saw their favorite daughter being robbed. By me. The music started. The cue. It was time. I walked. Step by step. My heart heavy now. Not from nerves. From betrayal. Daniel stood at the altar. My fiancé. My safe place. Calm eyes. Steady hands. When he saw my face, his expression changed. He knew something was wrong. He always knew. I reached him. The priest began speaking. Words about love, commitment, unity, family. The irony tasted bitter. Family. And then, before vows, before rings, before I do, my mother stood up. The sound of the chair scraping echoed. She walked toward the microphone meant for speeches later. No permission asked. She took it. The church went silent. My stomach dropped. Her voice was clear, controlled, dramatic. We are not here to celebrate. Gasps. Murmurs. Daniel's hand tightened around mine. She continued. We are here because our daughter has chosen greed over blood. The word greed felt like a slap. Greed. I almost laughed. Almost. But I didn't. Because she wasn't finished. She looked at me. directly at me. If you sign the lake house over to your sister today, we will bless this marriage. The room froze. If you refuse, we will stay right here, in black, as witnesses to the death of our family. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Then, Vanessa laughed. Soft. Amused. As if this was theater. As if I was the villain. I felt my throat close. My wedding. Hijacked. Turned into negotiation. Turned into public humiliation. I looked at the guests. Confused faces. Phones slowly being raised. Whispers growing louder. Daniel stepped forward. Calm. Always calm. Mrs. Whitmore, he said evenly, this isn't the time. My mother ignored him. She raised a folder. Legal documents. Already prepared. Of course they were. They had planned this. They had calculated every second. They thought public pressure would break me. I felt 16 again. Small. Powerless. But I wasn't 16. And I wasn't alone. Daniel leaned closer to me. Do you trust me? He whispered it so softly no one else could hear. Do I trust him? After everything? Yes. Always. I nodded. He kissed my forehead gently. Then he turned and calmly walked toward the projector screen behind the altar. I didn't know what he was doing. I hadn't planned anything. I hadn't known. But he had. He picked up the remote. Pressed a button. The screen lit up. At first, just static. Then video. A recording. Date stamp visible. 3 weeks ago. My parents' living room. Hidden camera angle. And there they were. My mother. My father. Vanessa. Laughing. Discussing strategy. Once she's in the church, Vanessa's voice echoed through the speakers. She won't dare refuse. She cares too much about image. My father nodded. She's weak under pressure. My mother smirked. She'll sign. She always folds. The guests gasped. Louder now. Phones fully raised. Recording everything. My chest felt like it was cracking open. Not from pain. From clarity. Daniel didn't look at me. He looked at them. You wanted witnesses, he said calmly. Now you have them. My mother's face drained of color. My father stood abruptly. This is illegal, he shouted. Daniel shrugged lightly. Blackmail is more illegal. Vanessa's laughter was gone. Replaced with panic. Whispers turned into outrage. Aunt Miriam stood up. How dare you? She snapped at my parents. Cousin Elias started clapping. Slowly. Deliberately. Others followed. Not applause for drama. Applause for truth. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there. Breathing. Realizing something. I wasn't losing a family. I never had one. Not really. My mother grabbed her purse. My father muttered threats. Vanessa avoided eye contact. And one by own. They walked out. Still dressed for a funeral. Only this time. It wasn't mine. It was theirs. The church doors closed. Silence. Then Daniel turned back to me. Soft smile. Now he said gently, where were we? And for the first time that day, I laughed. A real laugh. Because I understood something important. Love doesn't demand contracts. Family doesn't stage ultimatums. And sometimes, the only way to start a new life is to let the old one bury itself. I didn't kiss Daniel immediately after they left. I didn't move. I just stood there, breathing, slow, measured, like someone who had just survived a car crash but hadn't checked for injuries yet. The doors were still swinging slightly from where my father pushed them open. Black fabric disappearing into daylight. Funeral clothes. For the family they thought I destroyed. The priest cleared his throat awkwardly. "Shall we continue?" There was hesitation in his voice. Even he didn't know if this was still a wedding or something else entirely. Daniel looked at me, not pushing, not pressuring, just waiting. He always gave me space. That was the difference. Control versus choice. "I want 5 minutes," I said softly. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. 5 minutes. Not to cry. Not to panic. To think. We stepped into the small bridal preparation room behind the altar. The noise from outside was growing. Guests whispering. Phones buzzing. No doubt someone had already posted clips online. The Whitmore family drama. Live. Unfiltered. I sat down slowly. The dress felt heavier now. Not beautiful. Heavy. Like it carried generations of expectation. Daniel knelt in front of me. "You don't have to prove anything today," he said. I know. But I did. Not to them. To myself. 3 weeks ago. That date on the screen. I hadn't known about the recording. I looked at Daniel. "When did you suspect?" He exhaled. "Your sister called me." That made my head snap up. "She what?" "She thought I'd convince you," he said calmly. "She assumed I'd prefer money." I felt something dark twist in my chest. Vanessa never understood love. To her, everything was transactional. Daniel continued. "She told me your parents were planning something dramatic," her word. I almost smiled at that. Dramatic. As if emotional blackmail at your daughter's wedding was just flair. "So you recorded them." "I protected you." He didn't sound proud. Just firm. Steady. I thought about my grandmother, Evelyn Whitmore. Strong hands. Sharp mind. Even during chemo. Especially during chemo. She used to say, the loudest people in a room are usually hiding the weakest arguments. Today proved that. The lake house wasn't just property. It was cedar wood floors. Sunlight through old windows. The smell of pine and coffee. It was the last place my grandmother felt alive. And they wanted to turn it into a showroom. For handbags. For branding. For expansion. They called it investment. I called it erasure. There was a knock on the door. Soft. Careful. Ava stepped in. "They're arguing outside," she said quietly. "Your aunt is defending you." Aunt Miriam. Of course she was. She had always seen through my mother. I stood up, adjusted my veil, looked at myself in the mirror again. Same dress, same bride, different woman. I wasn't the girl who folded under pressure. I wasn't 16 anymore, and I wasn't alone. When we walked back into the sanctuary, the energy had shifted. Guests weren't confused now. They were protective, supportive, curious. The projector screen was still glowing faintly. Paused on the image of my parents mid-conspiracy, frozen in their own arrogance. I turned to the guests. "I'm sorry," I began. And for a second, my voice did crack. but I let it, because that was real. I'm sorry my wedding became evidence. Soft laughter, gentle, understanding. I won't be signing anything today, I continued. I won't be signing anything tomorrow. The silence was supportive this time, not suffocating. The lake house stays exactly where my grandmother left it. Applause, not loud, but firm, like agreement. Then something unexpected happened. The church doors opened again, but it wasn't my parents. It was Mr. Harold Bennett, my grandmother's attorney, 81 years old. Sharp suit, sharper mind. He walked slowly down the aisle, leaning on his cane, every step deliberate. I apologize for being late, he said. His voice carried authority without effort. I had to confirm something. My stomach tightened. Confirm what? He reached the altar, turned toward me. Evelyn anticipated this, he said quietly. The room leaned in. She amended her will 6 months before she passed. My heart skipped. Amended? He looked toward the doors where my parents had exited. As a precaution. Precaution against what? Against them. The lake house, he continued, cannot be sold, transferred, or commercialized for 20 years. Gasps again. Any attempt to coerce transfer triggers immediate forfeiture of the rest of the estate. Rest of the estate. I blinked. There's more, I whispered. Mr. Bennett smiled faintly. Considerably more. Daniel squeezed my hand, but I barely felt it. My mind was racing. They didn't know, I breathed. No, Mr. Bennett replied, and now they never will. He turned to the guests. Your parents have been attempting to access trust funds tied to the property. My stomach dropped. Trust funds. Plural. Those funds are now permanently locked from them. The realization hit me like lightning. They weren't just after the house. They were desperate. Financially desperate. Vanessa's boutique expansion. My father's recent investment ventures. My mother's silent credit card debt. It clicked. This wasn't about fairness. It was about survival. Theirs. I felt something strange. Not anger. Not even satisfaction. Clarity. Cold, steady clarity. They weren't villains in a movie. They were people who made bad choices and then doubled down. Publicly. Mr. Bennett handed me a sealed envelope. For when you're ready, he said. What is it? A letter. From Grandma. He nodded. She asked me to give it to you on your wedding day. Tears finally came. Quiet ones. Not dramatic. Just human. Daniel wiped one gently from my cheek. Do you want to read it now? He asked. I looked at the guests, at the altar, at the life waiting in front of me. No, I whispered. I want to get married first. Because this day, despite everything, was not theirs to ruin. The priest cleared his throat again. This time confidently. Shall we? And this time I smiled fully. Yes. As Daniel took my hands again, I felt lighter. Not because my parents left, but because their power did. They had always relied on intimidation, on guilt, on obligation. But secrets exposed in daylight lose their teeth. When I said I do, it wasn't trembling. It wasn't hesitant. It was grounded, solid, certain. And when Daniel said I do, he looked at me like I wasn't a burden. Not an asset. Not leverage. Just me. We kissed. Applause filled the church. Real applause this time. Not for scandal. For love. But as we walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, I saw something outside through the glass doors. My father's car, still parked, engine running. They hadn't left yet. They were waiting. Waiting for what? For confrontation? For another attempt? For control? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. This wasn't over. Not completely. Because desperate people don't retreat quietly. They regroup. As rice rained over us outside, as cameras flashed, as guests hugged and laughed, I held the sealed letter against my chest. And I felt it. The shift. Not from daughter to wife, but from controlled to free. Still, somewhere in the back of my mind, a question lingered. What exactly was in the rest of that estate? And why had my grandmother been so careful, so strategic? What had she known about them that I didn't? The car engine outside finally shut off. Slowly, deliberately, like a warning. The reception hall was glowing. Crystal lights, soft jazz, champagne glasses clinking, laughter floating through gold-draped walls. It looked like celebration. It sounded like celebration. But inside me, something was still unsettled. Not broken, not afraid, just aware. Daniel noticed. Of course he did. He always did. "You want to read it," he said quietly. I looked down at the envelope in my hands. Cream paper. My name written in my grandmother's handwriting. Ilara. Not my dear. Not darling. Just my name. Strong. Direct. We slipped away from the noise. Out the side doors. Into the garden behind the venue. Night air. Cool. Still. Honest. The music inside became distant. Muted. Like another world. I sat on a stone bench. Wedding dress pooling around me like spilled moonlight. Daniel sat beside me. Close, but not crowding. He never crowded. I broke the seal slowly. Carefully. As if opening it too fast might erase her voice. The paper trembled slightly in my hands. Not because of wind. Because of memory. I began to read. Ilara, if you are reading this, then you are either married or finally strong enough to stand alone. I hope it is the first. I stopped. Swallowed. Daniel squeezed my hand gently. I continued. Your parents love you, in their own limited way. But love without integrity becomes control. My chest tightened. She had seen it. All of it. The lake house was never about money. It was about character. I watched carefully. I waited. And I chose the one who showed up without cameras, without promises, without expectation. Tears blurred the ink. I blinked them away. Vanessa has charm. Marcus has pride. Helena has fear. You have spine. A shaky breath escaped me. Spine. She believed I had spine. Even when I didn't feel it. I kept reading. There is something else you must know. The house is only the visible inheritance. My part thudded once. Hard. Beneath it sits land rights to 3 adjacent properties. They are currently dormant. Untouched. Valued far beyond what your parents assume. Daniel straightened slightly. I felt it. The weight of those words. I placed them in a separate trust. Under your name. Accessible only after you marry, or after your parents attempt coercion regarding the house. Silence filled the garden. Heavy. Real. She knew. She anticipated this exact scenario. If they tried to corner you publicly, it would activate the protection clause. protection clause. That must have been what Mr. Bennett confirmed earlier. That clause transfers full financial authority to you and freezes any access they believed they had. My breathing slowed. Not in panic. In realization. They hadn't just lost the house. They had lost everything they thought they controlled. Daniel looked at me carefully. "Are you okay?" I nodded slowly. Yes. And for the first time since morning, I truly meant it. But the letter wasn't finished. "This next part will hurt you, but you deserve truth." I braced myself. "Your father invested heavily 2 years ago. He lost most of it. He used family assets to recover, including portions intended for Vanessa." I closed my eyes. That explained the desperation. "Your mother signed documents she didn't fully read. Vanessa pushed expansion plans too quickly. A pattern. Pride. Impulse. Image. Collapse. They believe the lake house is their solution. It is not. It is simply the last visible piece they can reach. The last visible piece. And they had tried to take it on my wedding day." I turned the page. There was one final paragraph. "Ilara, you cannot fix them, but you can decide whether to save them. If you choose to help, do it without surrendering yourself. If you choose not to, do it without guilt." I exhaled slowly. Without guilt. She knew that would be the hardest part. You were never weak. You were just surrounded by loud people. A small laugh escaped me through tears. Loud people. Yes, very loud. Build your life on calm ground, not noise. The letter ended there. No dramatic farewell. No excessive sentiment. Just her name. Evelyn. Strong. Final. Daniel waited until I folded the letter carefully. "What does it mean?" he asked. "It means," I said quietly, "they're not just greedy. They're drowning." Inside the reception hall, the music shifted to something faster. Celebratory. Bright. But out here, everything felt clear. Sharp. Defined. "If they're financially collapsing," Daniel said thoughtfully, "they won't stop." I knew he was right. Desperate people escalate. Especially when pride is involved. Almost on cue, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I stared at it for a second. Then answered. "Hello." Silence. Then my father's voice. Low. Controlled. "You embarrassed us." I almost laughed. "No," I replied calmly. "You embarrassed yourselves." There was breathing on the other end. Heavy. Measured. "You don't understand the consequences," he said. Consequences. Always that word. "You mean financial consequences?" I asked softly. Silence again. I continued. "Grandma amended the will." His breathing changed. Sharp. "You knew." "Yes. I'll lie." But he didn't need to know that. "What did she do?" he demanded. Not, "What did she leave you?" What did she do? As if she had committed betrayal. "She protected me," I said simply. There was a pause. Then something I didn't expect. His voice cracked. Just slightly. "You don't know how bad it is." For a second, just a second, I heard not the manipulator, not the strategist, but a man who had gambled and lost. "How bad?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer directly. Vanessa doesn't know everything. Of course she didn't. Pride again. Always pride. "You tried to corner me publicly," I said. Yes. No denial. At least there was that. "I won't sign anything," I continued. "I know." The admission was almost strange. But I might help. Silence. Longer this time. Why? He asked. Because I'm not you. But I didn't say that. Because I don't want the lake house to become a battlefield. Daniel watched me carefully. He wasn't interrupting. He was evaluating, trusting me. You would help, my father repeated. On my terms. And those are no more manipulation, no more public pressure, full transparency about debts. Another silence. Then, that would ruin our reputation. I closed my eyes. There it is. Reputation. Always reputation. You can either lose reputation, I said calmly, or lose everything. The garden felt colder. Still, waiting. Finally, he said quietly, I'll call you tomorrow. And hung up. I lowered the phone slowly. Daniel studied my face. You're considering it. Yes. Why? I looked back at the glowing windows of the reception. At the life inside. At the future. Because ending cycles sometimes means absorbing impact. He didn't argue. He never argued from Evo. If we help, he said carefully, we protect ourselves first. Yes. No signing anything. Never. No emotional leverage. Not again. Inside the hall, someone was chanting our names. Laughing. Calling for the bride and groom. Life pulling us back. Forward. I folded the letter again. Placed it inside my bouquet ribbon. Close to me. I won't let them drown, I whispered. But I won't drown with them. Daniel smiled slightly. That's the spine she talked about. As we walked back toward the doors, I felt something shift again. Not weakness. Not obligation. Authority. Quiet authority. But just before we stepped inside, a shadow moved near the side gate. Someone watching. I narrowed my eyes. It wasn't my father. It wasn't my mother. It was Vanessa. Alone. Phone pressed to her ear. Arguing. Angry. Desperate. And when she saw me, she stopped talking and stared. Not with laughter. Not with mockery. With calculation. Cold. Sharp. Strategic. This wasn't over. Not at all. Because if my father was drowning, Vanessa was planning. The sister who never played fair. Vanessa didn't look surprised to see me. She looked interrupted. There's a difference. Surprise is unprepared. Interruption is annoyance. She ended her call slowly. Deliberately. Like she wanted me to know the conversation wasn't finished. Just paused. Enjoying your night? She asked. Her voice was smooth. Too smooth. I am, I replied, and I meant it. Because peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's clarity inside it. She crossed her arms. Still in black. Still playing the role. You always liked being dramatic, she said lightly. That almost made me smile. Projection is such a transparent thing when you're calm. You tried to take my house, I said evenly. You tried to corner me publicly. Her lips tightened. Dad's idea. There it was. Deflection. Fast. Reflexive. Were you laughing because it was his idea too? I asked. Her eyes flickered. Just for a second. And that second told me everything. Vanessa didn't laugh because she thought I'd lose. She laughed because she thought she'd win. You don't understand the pressure, she said quietly now. Her tone shifted. Less sharp. More real. Dad's investments collapsed. The boutique expansion is tied to his credit lines. If he goes under, I go under. So that was the chain. Father falls, daughter falls, and I was supposed to cushion it. With my inheritance. I didn't cause that, I said. No, she snapped. But you can fix it. Fix. Such a convenient word. It implies responsibility. Behind me, I could hear Daniel speaking with guests. Laughing softly. Normal. Grounded. He trusted me to handle this. That trust mattered. Vanessa stepped closer. Lowered her voice. There's another clause, she said. My pulse slowed. Explain. In Grandma's trust, there's a joint executor provision. My stomach tightened. Joint executor? With who? I asked. She smiled faintly. With me. For a second, I felt heat rise in my chest. Not panic, not fear, just alertness. That's not possible, I said calmly. It is. Her voice didn't waver. After 20 years, if you're married and I'm financially stable, control becomes shared. Shared. Grandma wouldn't have done that blindly. She never moved without intention. You're not financially stable, I said quietly. Her jaw tightened. Not yet. And there it was. The strategy. Not immediate takeover. Long game. You think I'll sabotage myself to block you? She asked. I think you might try to accelerate something, I replied. She didn't deny it. That scared me more than if she had. What are you planning, Vanessa? She leaned back slightly. Almost relaxed. I'm planning to survive. That wasn't the full truth. I could see it in her eyes. Survival mixed with ambition becomes something sharper. Something dangerous. Dad won't tell you everything, she said suddenly. My focus sharpened. What does that mean? She hesitated. And for aunts. She looked unsure. There are personal guarantees attached to his loans, she admitted quietly. If he defaults, they don't just take assets. My breath slowed. What do they take? She looked away. Leverage. Leverage. People. Connections. Reputation. Pressure. You're saying someone might come after the house anyway? I asked. She didn't answer directly. But silence can be louder than confession. I felt something cold settle in my spine. Grandma protected the legal side. But legal doesn't stop desperate creditors. It doesn't stop intimidation. Who? I asked. She shook her head. I shouldn't have said anything. But she had. And that meant she was afraid. Vanessa never admitted fear. Unless it was real. You tried to humiliate me publicly, I said. And now you're warning me. Her eyes flashed. I didn't think Dad would go that far. A lie. But not fully. Maybe she expected pressure. Not exposure. You need to decide something, she said suddenly. What? Are you protecting the house? Or the family? False choice. Classic manipulation. I almost respected it. I'm protecting myself, I replied. And if that protects the house, good. She studied me. Long. Hard. As if recalculating. Inside the hall, the music shifted again. Someone announced the first dance. Applause. Laughter. Life continuing. Vanessa glanced toward the sound. Then back at me. If Dad loses control, she said quietly, he won't react well. He already didn't, I answered. No, she corrected. You haven't seen him react yet. That sentence stayed with me. Like a splinter. Small, but sharp. Tell him this, I said calmly. No more surprises. Her mouth twitched slightly. You think you're in control now. I am. For the first time in my life, I truly believed it. She stepped back, picked up her phone again. Enjoy your dance, she said softly, and walked toward the parking lot. Not toward our parents' car, toward her own, alone. I stood there for a moment, processing. Personal guarantees, creditors, joint executor clause, long-term leverage. This wasn't just emotional drama anymore. This was structural risk. Daniel appeared beside me, silent, steady. She told you something, he said. Yes. Bad. Complicated. He nodded. Then we simplify it. I almost smiled. That's not how finance works. No, he said gently. But it's how boundaries work. Inside the reception hall, everyone cheered as we entered. Spotlight shifted. Music swelled. Hands clapped. Smiles everywhere. The contrast was almost surreal. Crisis outside. Celebration inside. As Daniel pulled me into the first dance, I rested my head against his chest. His heartbeat steady. Grounded. Real. Not loud. Not chaotic. Just present. I won't let them pull you into this, he whispered. I won't let myself be pulled, I replied. That mattered more. Halfway through the dance, I saw him. Across the room, near the back exit. My father. He had come inside quietly. Not dramatic now. Not loud. Watching. Calculating. And when our eyes met, he didn't look angry. He looked cornered. And cornered men don't retreat. They pivot. I realized something in that moment. The house wasn't the final target anymore. Control was. And when someone who built their identity on control starts losing it, they don't negotiate. They escalate. As the music ended, as applause filled the room, I felt it clearly. The wedding was just the beginning. The exposure was just the spark. What came next would not be public, not dramatic, not theatrical. It would be quiet, legal, strategic, personal. And somewhere in that quiet, someone was going to make a move first. I just didn't know who. What I chose to break. 3 days after the wedding, the silence began. Not peaceful silence, strategic silence. No calls from my mother. No dramatic texts. No emotional paragraphs about family betrayal. Just quiet. And that kind of quiet, it means movement is happening somewhere else. Daniel and I didn't go on a honeymoon. Not yet. Instead, we drove to the lake house. Early morning. Fog resting over the water. Pine trees still. Unbothered. The house stood exactly as it always had. Steady. Patient. Like it had seen worse storms than this. I unlocked the door. The cedar scent wrapped around me instantly. Memory. Safety. Childhood summers. Grandma's voice humming in the kitchen. It grounded me. Daniel set his bag down near the fireplace. We fortify, he said simply. Not with walls. With information. By noon, Mr. Bennett arrived. Folder in hand. Expression serious. 2 things, he said without sitting down. First, your father has officially defaulted. There it was. Out loud. Final. Second, he continued, the creditor isn't a bank. My stomach tightened. Who is it? He exhaled slowly. Sterling and Klein Holdings. The name felt heavy. Corporate. Predatory. I had heard of them. Private investment recovery firm. They don't lend to help. They lend to own. They specialize in distressed asset acquisition, Mr. Bennett explained. They don't want monthly payments. They want leverage. The word again. Leverage. Personal guarantees mean, I asked. They can pursue any perceived connected asset. The lake house? Daniel asked calmly. Not directly, Bennett replied. But they can pressure through litigation claims, tie things up, drain resources. Slow suffocation. Legal. Cold. Calculated. I felt something settle inside me. Not fear. Not panic. Resolve. When do they move? I asked. They already have, Bennett said quietly. He handed me a document. Filed that morning. Claim of disputed inheritance valuation. They were challenging the trust's appraisal, trying to create legal uncertainty. If they couldn't seize, they would stall. Daniel looked at me carefully. This is the escalation. Yes, I said softly. Vanessa had warned me, but she hadn't told me everything. That evening, my father called. No anger this time. No authority. Just exhaustion. They contacted you, he said. Yes. Silence. Then, I didn't know they would move that fast. Of course he didn't. Men like him always believe they have one more step. One more negotiation. One more bluff. You put personal guarantees on family assets, I said. I was trying to recover. By gambling vigor. He didn't deny it. They'll bury us, he muttered. Not us. You. But I didn't say it. Because technically, it could become us. If I chose wrong. What do they really want? I asked. He hesitated. Then answered. Control of development rights. The adjacent land. The dormant properties. Grandma knew. She knew the land would become valuable. She knew someone would circle it eventually. They approached me 2 years ago, he admitted quietly. They wanted partnership. And you refused. I tried to outpace them. Pride again. Always pride. I closed my eyes. You made yourself vulnerable. I made a mistake. It was the first time he had ever said that to me. Ever. That night, Vanessa showed up. At the lake house. Alone. No performance. No black clothes. Just jeans. Hair tied back. Eyes tired. They're not negotiating with Dad anymore, she said immediately. They're negotiating with me. That caught my attention. How? They offered to buy my boutique outright. And they want board position access to the trust after the 20-year mark. There it was. The long game. They weren't just circling my father. They were positioning through her. You'd sell? I asked. She looked at me. Really looked at me. For what? Survival? Her voice cracked slightly. They don't just want money. They want influence. Influence over me. Through her. Through time. If you take their deal, I said quietly, you become their bridge. She swallowed. I know. We stood in the living room. The same room where Grandma used to read by the window. Silence heavy. Honest. I tried to win, Vanessa said finally. At the wedding. Yes. I thought if I controlled the narrative, I'd control the outcome. You learned differently. She nodded slowly. They're predators, she whispered. Not about me. About Sterling and Klein. About the machine she had underestimated. Dad can't fight them, she continued. He's already cornered. And you? I asked. She exhaled slowly. I can walk away. It surprised me. more than anything else had. You would. If I stay tied to them, I lose everything eventually. She wasn't talking about money. She was talking about self. Daniel watched quietly from the kitchen doorway, observing, not interfering, trusting the process. Here's what happens, I said calmly. I refinance the legal defense through the trust-protected reserves. Vanessa looked up sharply. You've used your protection clause. Yes. You don't have to. I know. That mattered. Choice matters. I'll do it under one condition, I continued. No future claim on control. No partnership. No leverage access. She nodded immediately. I don't want it anymore. And for the first time, I believed her. The next morning, we met with Sterling and Klein's representatives. Glass office. Steel accents. No warmth. Just calculation. The lead partner, Mr. Klein himself, leaned back in his chair. You're younger than I expected, he said. I'm more prepared than you expected, I replied calmly. Daniel's hand rested lightly at my back. Steady. Present. You understand your father's exposure? Klein asked. Yes. You understand we can drag this through courts for years? Yes. And you're willing to fund that, if necessary? He studied me. Long. Evaluating. Predators respect resistance. Not emotion. Not pleading. Resistance. You could simplify this, he said, by offering development rights. No, I replied simply. Silence. Sharp. You're protecting land out of sentiment, he said lightly. I'm protecting autonomy, I corrected. There's a difference. And he knew it. After 2 hours of negotiation, he shifted tone. Your father is finished, he said quietly. Maybe, I replied. But I'm not. And that was the pivot. They hadn't expected separation. They expected family collapse. Internal fracture. Quick acquisition. Instead, they found structure. Boundaries. Clarity. Within a week, we reached settlement. Debt restructuring. No claim on trust. No future board access. Strict litigation withdrawal. In exchange, my father surrendered all personal guarantees tied to family-linked assets. Publicly. On record. He came to the lake house after signing. He didn't yell. He didn't posture. He looked smaller, not physically. Structurally. I thought control meant strength, he said quietly. I didn't respond immediately. I know, I replied. You could have let me fall, he continued. Yes. Why didn't you? I looked at the water outside. Still. Calm. Because I refused to become what I had to survive. He nodded slowly. For the first time, there was no defense in his eyes. No manipulation. Just understanding. Vanessa closed her boutique expansion. Scaled back. Rebuilt slower. Smarter. Without borrowed ego. My mother stopped speaking about reputation. She started asking about accountability. Quietly. Privately. It wasn't dramatic redemption. It was gradual correction. And me. I didn't save them. I didn't sacrifice for them. I enforced boundaries. And then chose assistance. There's a difference. A massive one. 6 months later, Daniel and I sat on the dock. Feet in the water. Sunset bleeding orange into the lake. Peaceful. Burned. Do you regret helping? He asked softly. No, I said. Do you regret exposing them? I thought about that. No. Because exposure isn't cruelty. It's light. And light forces truth. The house stood behind us. Protected. Not because of legal clauses. Not because of fear. Because I decided its story would not repeat. I wasn't the weak daughter. I wasn't the greedy inheritor. I wasn't the emotional pawn. I was the line where it stopped. The cycle. The control. The public humiliation. The manipulation. It stopped with me. And that's what the black clothes really marked. Not my funeral. Not the family's. But the burial of control. I didn't destroy my family. I restructured it. Without surrender. Without guilt. Without losing myself. And when I look back at that wedding day, I don't see chaos anymore. I see a turning point. A spotlight. A moment where silence broke. And truth stood up. Calmly. Like my husband did. Like I did. Some endings aren't loud. They're deliberate. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can inherit isn't property. It's spine. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and stay with us to enjoy more powerful and emotional stories like this.